Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the man cave of madness. It is after midnight and we are doing another unboxing. And this time it's going to be Sleepwalkers, Imperial, Rivalries, and the Great War. Now, I'm going to zoom out here a little bit, well, maybe a little bit more there. So I've got a whole bunch of games here and another row behind them. These are all games potentially that I could unbox for the Charles S. Roberts 2023 nominees. I've even got a few more elsewhere off to the side here. I just can't get to them all. I was hoping to do more categories where I could have all the unboxings to present to you to be fair, that I had them all there. Well, I'm gonna fit in the game of the year titles. I'm gonna cram that in an extra session. I'm gonna do one by the end of this, by Thursday night, Friday, and then I'm gonna get another one in before Sunday. So then by Sunday I will have those. But I'm not going to be able to finish any other categories. So what I've decided to do instead is look at the different categories and try to pick titles from games from categories that are from publishers that maybe get a little less press, games that you might not have heard of. Some of these have, more publicity than others and some not. And I figure this wouldn't necessarily sway anyone. I mean, my whole purpose is not to try to convince someone to or not to vote for something. But I was sort of afraid if I couldn't cover a whole category that might not seem fair. Well, so I figured I'm gonna try to fill in the gaps of some of your knowledge or exposure and do some titles again that, publishers that you might not have seen much of, or particular titles that are not your mainstream war game or conflict simulations, etc. So I'm going to try to get at least one from each of those categories that I mentioned that I'd like to do, like, a World War I, a medieval, a, gunpowder or industrial era, etc. Also have, ones here that are, you can see there, modern era. This is from the category of best political, social, or economic, etc. So I'm going to try to do a smattering of titles here and there, fitting a few more in. Just not going to be able to do entire whole categories, except for at the end there, I will do the game of the year titles. I'll try to have those all done, if at all possible. So I'll probably do this one, then followed by this one. These two. We'll just see how many we can cram in. I'm going to try to make them much shorter. So this is already 3 minutes in, but this is a little by word of introduction. And let's go here to Sleepwalkers again. This is from Dr. Benjamin Richter. The publisher is Dr. Richter, Konfliktsimulationen. Yes. Now, he is no longer in the business of publishing games. He sort of closed down his company. I don't know if it's permanently or temporary, but he's got a gig that he's doing. He's a journalist. I don't know if his current project is journalism related or not, but he's working in Belgium, and he's sort of temporarily or permanently closed down his game business. But I was able to order this from him sort of directly through Board Game Geek. Don't know if it's still available, but it was when I ordered it. So let's go ahead and, well, there's no shrink. It's a Ziploc game. So we should be able to dive right into this. Of course, best laid plans of mice and men. I'll probably fidget with this and not be able to get it out. Okay, luckily. And this is, good. There's enough slack. One of my pet peeves is having Ziploc games that are in too tight that you can't get out. I really don't like that. I don't want to damage the maps, the counters, the rule book, trying to get them out of bags that are too small. All right, so here we are. Imperial, Rivalries, and the Great War, Sleepwalkers. And again, this is in the category of political, social, or economic games. Now, these are games that are not primarily military. They can be non-military conflicts, or they can be a conflict, but it's primarily waged outside of the bounds of military means. So let's look at the back here. All right. So here we have an area map. Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia. All the other regions are white, and therefore neutral, or at least not major players. Do notice that Italy is not included here. All right, so it says, the First World War is often called the seminal catastrophe of the 20th century. Many Europeans had condoned war, but hardly anyone could have wanted the unprecedented slaughter that began in 1940. Why did it happen? How could it happen? So it's a simulation about diplomacy at the brink of war. All right, and it takes from the period between 1900 through 1918. You need to keep a balance between assertiveness on the one hand and conciliation on the other. They're their central challenge. Can you avoid war while striving for peace that suits you? All right. So it says from 1 to 5 players, best with 3 to 5. Complexity low, 60 to 240 minutes. So that's quite a swing. An hour to 4. 55 counters, 12 by 16 map. Okay, I don't think I've ever seen that size. 11 by 17 or something. So I wonder if that's like one of the European, A2, A4, whatever, that's slightly a different size than, but it is presented in inches. So 6-sided die. All right, so all right, we have a counter sheet with a extra backing board in here. It looks like, yeah, so they're not that thick, but so I'll get those open in a moment. So here's the map. I'm going to zoom back out. The 12 by 16 map. All right. All right, event chit explanations. There are 15 of them. One of them which is game over. So I hope you can't draw that the very first turn and it's game over after one turn. I hope there's some limiting factor or something, because that's like you don't put it into the pool until something else happens, and then you have a game-ending chit show up. Sequence of play. Random events, actions, crisis resolution with initial reaction, call on allies, conference, mobilization, mediation, war, breakout role, British intervention. It's interesting that they're a separate form of intervention. War resolution, glory, attrition, and outcome. 0 to 9 on the general records track here. Dreyfus-Affair, Hate Convention, Boer War, Anglo-Japanese Alliance, Herero-Nama Genocide, Berlin-Baghdad Railway, Russo-Japanese War, Daily Telegraph interview, The Black Hand, Italian-Ottoman War, Balkan Crisis, Irish Unrest, General Strike, Pacifism, and Game Over, man. Game over. All right. So let's leave this. Let's see if I can put this here like that, so we can sort of see that in the backdrop as we look at. All right. So the rule book is pretty small. So it's half size. Normally I would say an 8.5 and 11, but I don't know if it's if that's a 12 by 16. So this would be 4 by 8 instead. Instead of 8.5 by 5.5. So we have, come on, 7, 8. So 8 8 pages of half-sized stuff. All right. And it looks like, no. Oh. Yeah, there we go. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. Stay. All right. I'm looking for diagrams or charts. Not a Zippo. All right. So there's nothing to consult. This game does require die roll, but the resolution system must be pretty easy. Like impose a tariff, roll a die. 1, 2, 3 to 5, 6. Breakout roll. So you roll dice again. If the total is higher than the number just determined, etc. So you have to find this stuff in the rules as it comes up. But like war's only going to break out once. Final victory, example of play. So we actually have here most of the last 2 pages being an example of play. All right. So it's very, very hard to believe that with this little rules, a map like this, now you do have all these event counters here, 15 of them. Let's see, these are what, 6, no, 8, 7. Each country has a different amount of counters. 7, 9, 8, 6, 8. Yeah, the game would last up to 4 hours. Maybe there's a lot of negotiation in here. So there's not much to show you, and I'm not gonna normally my normal meandering style, unboxing of a meandering style. Of course, this is an unbagging, not unboxing. I would dig in more. There's not a lot visible here to show you. I would have to dig into the rules and try to figure this stuff out. Glory phase, attrition phase, outcome phase. So this is going to be a short one. So this might be hard to let you see enough from an unboxing. This is not an eye candy game. This is a simple map. Not very many counters. The most complexity appears to be that there's 15 different events that have different things to do. We don't know what the basic mechanics are. It looks like you have choices of, passing, mobilizing, expanding, arming, who you're going to ally with, who you want to protect, some kind of prestige tracker. So here, this thing here. Sleepwalkers is essentially a game of brinkmanship. The die rolls toward the end of the crisis escalation reflect the experience of many historical participants that from a certain point on, they lost control over the events. The issue with the triggered crisis often moved to the background by the time of its resolution. Who still cared about the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1918? Yeah, they were way past that. The crisis escalates up to a war breakout roll. Whatever the result, prestige effects are different from what was at stake at the beginning of the affair. All right. So I think this is one that you'd actually have to sit down and play it to get a feel for. You can't really tell from here. So if you're interested in trying to see, well, what does this little game have to offer in the realm of diplomacy, a political, social, or economic game. So it certainly appears it's the political aspect of the interactions of these countries and their war aims. It's not about the military conflict, even though you do have a war resolution in it. It's all about the diplomacy and the political posturing. So we're going to call it there, folks. This was Sleepwalkers, Imperial Rivalries and the Great War from Dr. Richter, Konfliktsimulationen. for 1 to 5 players, best with 3 to 5. A very low footprint game, as we can see. So that's that. Take care, everyone, and ciao.